Welcome to the Fantasy Golf Bag Podcast, presented by FantasyGolfBag.com, your number one source for the most in-depth PGA Tour analysis in the daily fantasy and sports betting world. Each week, our experts will discuss everything you need to know, from the course preview and key stats to top plays, fades, and strategies. Whether golf betting, grinding out cash games, or playing for a big GPP win, our team has you covered. Let's get after it.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Fantasy Golf Bag Podcast. I'm your host, Redkacheek, joined today by Axis, aka Fantasy Jesus, and we are here to talk a little bit of the BMW Championship. Coming off of Northern Trust, which was the first leg of the FedEx Cup playoffs, Patrick Reed was able to pull ahead at the very end there, last couple of holes. Seemed like the whole DFS industry hit a bunch of guys, or a bunch of outrights on him, as well as a pretty popular pick in DFS. So excited to kind of move forward into this week 2 of the FedEx Cup playoffs to an older course, Medinah. But before we get into all of that, I'll go ahead and bring in the partner in crime this week, Axis. How's it going, dude?
Going well and ready for another deep field event. I know things are winding down. People aren't always into the FedEx Cup playoffs, but I really enjoy these events just for the depth of the field. Just like last week and now this week, it's a WGC size, but even better without, kind of the bottom feeders that the WGCs have to invite. So I'm looking forward to the BMW this week a lot. Yeah,
it's interesting with the schedule rotations with these. We haven't seen Medinah for a long time. So it's interesting. It's a classic golf course, so I was excited to see it on the rotation, but it is kind of weird having such a classic golf course that we haven't seen in so long now back in the rotation for a star-studded field like this. It's interesting. So it would be curious to see how we kind of approach it. Obviously, we don't have a lot of strokes gained. We don't have any strokes gained data on the prior events that were hosted here. The big ones being the PGA Championships back in, was it 99 and 2006, I think, that Tiger won both. But it's definitely going to be a good venue. Looking forward to the golf course again. It also hosted the 2012 Ryder Cup, so if you guys remember that, that's probably what the most recent memories are. But yeah, the FedEx Cup playoffs this year are just weird with the 3 weeks being about a month closer to like the British Open being the last major. So it's a weird trying to get your head around the schedule, but I am excited for it to be 3 weeks instead of 4. You don't have that break there and then have, this weird scoring structure next week. We'll see how that plays out. But for the most part, I think they did good with the overall schedule of 2019 in general, and then this 3 week spread for the playoffs.
Yeah, I've been a big fan of the new schedule. I love how everything's crammed together. There's big tournaments pretty well every month starting in February, and January is the opening to the season, so it's all pretty big and nice. So Euro's kicking back up this weekend too with the Czech Masters, so I'm as happy as a pig in mud. I honestly don't care for the most part what events it is. There's plenty going on, and I love the schedule. You got rid of one of the fluff playoff events, so yeah, I'm looking forward to having it this way for the foreseeable future.
Yep. Yeah, we'll be getting back into the Euro here soon. Obviously, we have all the Euro stats we launched a couple months ago, and then we got a couple other things in store, hopefully announcing soon in terms of Euro. But I know you and Sky are big fans. Hopefully, we'll be having more content revolving around the Euro. So, once this, the playoffs end and the fall swing's kind of approaching, we still are going to hit Euro pretty hard and fast through the end of the year. So looking forward to that. And, obviously with the stats that we had at the end of last year, all the normal PGA Tour stuff we're used to being released to all of our members, that was a huge help hitting a couple of those guys leading into the British Open. So looking forward to that. That obviously resumes this week. A couple other housekeeping notes for the most part. The Listener League link should be in the description of the podcast. So if you're looking on iTunes, Android, Spotify, you should see it there. If you're on YouTube, again, we're still hesitant to post a link due to some of the restrictions for the fantasy/gambling genre, I guess. I'm not sure how they're flagging it, but obviously there was a huge deal, a couple months ago where all of our videos got dropped. Pretty much everybody in the industry got dropped. But if you do want the link, you'll have to go find it on iTunes or Spotify. So apologies for kind of a little extra step there. And then thanks again to all the people that purchased our new Fantasy Golf Bag shirts last week. The new American edition with the flag on the sleeve. Those all got shipped out on or this morning, Monday. So look forward to you guys getting that. I know we saw Orange Man up at the Northern Trust. He was representing on CBS. We got a little snapshot of him on, I think it was first tee with Patrick Reed teeing off. So very cool for him. And then the last little shout out is Giant Beer finished 17th, I think, in the FGWC. I think Nick Verone, who's a follower of Fantasy Golf Bag, and he watches us on the or he interacts on the Wednesday live stream. I think he was leading for different sporadic times during the week. But again, kudos to everybody that qualified for the FGWC, and we'll look forward to it again next year. We'll be a little bit more prepared, at least I will. That snuck up way quicker than it did in 2018.
Yeah, I didn't even bother this year attempting. It's not really my thing, but maybe next year I'll have a go at it. I normally don't dabble in too many of the Qs or the ticket GPPs, but I don't know, could be fun. It's just hard for me to wrap my head around burning the money sometimes on that. But if they're gonna have a live event, I think that could be cool to try to get to.
For sure. The only problem is if with a live event, most likely the qualifying structure will be more difficult. But
right,
the live, if it does anything live, I mean, it doesn't even have to be at a golf tournament. I'm not going to get into all of that on the podcast, but like they talk about a live final. It doesn't have to be at an event. Like that would be really cool if it was at, people talk about the Waste Management Phoenix Open and stuff like that. But honestly, all these NFL finals, basketball finals, like they're just hosted somewhere and then they watch the games. Like that'd be pretty cool. Like go to Vegas, although you can't play DFS in Vegas. I was thinking about Topgolf there is pretty awesome, but just go somewhere, maybe Pebble Beach or something like that. Guys can chill out, play golf if they want to play golf. They go do something else if they don't play golf, but it doesn't have to be an event. Like I'm not sure why it's so difficult. I probably wouldn't want it to be anyway, because I get to watch this one hole. Yeah, cool. Pretty much. Like I don't know. It could be a little more fun than that, but yeah. Anyway. Yep. I digress. We can make some serious. Yeah. I could talk about it for a little while, but not gonna get into it. I'll leave that for another day. So let's go ahead and dive into it, man. Again, not gonna touch on last week too much. Hit on those little housekeeping notes, but gonna keep that part in the past. And like Nick joked about last week or the week before, we'll readdress the Northern Trust Open in 2020. So. Moving ahead to the BMW Championship, it'll be hosted at Medinah Country Club, and that's in Illinois. I guess it's just outside of Chicago or nearby Chicago. It's going to be a par 72, 7,613 yards. Pretty long when you start looking at like the overall yardage, but I think you and me, Axis, kind of on the same page with the yardage being more of a scorecard number. When you look at the actual hole structures, it's pretty average for distances. Like you look at the par fours, there's not like a ton over 500 yards. In fact, there's only one over 500 yards. Most of them are in that medium, long range, like around 430 to 450, which adds to the yardage. So it's not going to be short by any means, but it's not like you're going to get at a US Open where you'll see 3 or 4 of these like 520 par fours. So, it is going to be long, but when you look at the scores from 2006 at the U.S. Open, the course was only like 100 yards shorter. And you got guys like Ian Poulter, Luke Donald. There's really not a ton of distance that played a big role there, at least in my opinion. So I'm sure we'll get into some of the stats that we're looking for, being as there was no strokes gained stats available in 2006. But curious your thoughts overall on the golf course. 7,600 yards is definitely long, but it doesn't look like it's certainly not a bomber's track. It's probably the easiest way to put it out there. Yeah, so what I have is the Daily Herald did a piece with Marty D'Angelo, the head pro of Medinah, and he said essentially it is a big number, but it's not one of the tougher tests in golf, and that's pretty well what his quote was. And he also said that he expects, if the rough is kept decently long, but, kind of typical to where it is,
he expects to score anywhere from 15 to 17 under. So again, that's just one guy speculating, but he is the head pro, so I would hope he'd have a pretty decent feel on his course. But yeah, like if that's going to be the score, I can't imagine it's only going to be bombers who are able to score. Like you said, we looked at the card. A lot of the par fours, they could be, may not be a complete birdie fest, but there's the drivable one. I think it's 330. So I don't know. Some of the par threes are a little longer. Overall, though, if he expects the score to be 15 to 17 under, I don't really have a good guess. Like you said, they haven't played this since 2006 PGA Championship, so I'll just have to go with what he says and assume that there are birdies out there for everybody. So whoever shows up, if you will.
Yeah, I was trying to look it up real quick to see if I had the numbers in our database to pull up, looking at birdie averages, because I was kind of surprised by that, looking at the talking about 15, 16, 17 under par, possibly, like Pat Mayo mentioned, 20 under par potentially. I mean, the golf courses nowadays are so good. Like, you get on the greens, they're going to be nice. It's not like you have to worry about, I wouldn't say you have to worry about summer heat with them getting bumpy or anything, but man, it just seemed like the way the golf course sets up that 17 under would be seriously playing.
Yeah, it seems crazy. Like, I read the number too, like when I was reading through this interview, and then all of a sudden he threw that number out there. I was like, oh, now, I was expecting, I don't know. I still don't know what I was fully expecting. Maybe like 12 to 14 under is what I was, but then he seemed pretty confident that they would be able to get at this course, with pretty solid conditions even. So, because he even said that, even with, 4-inch rough, he thinks that would be the score, 15 to 17 under.
Yeah, I mean, he's not far off, I guess. Looking back in 2006, so top of the birdie list for 2006, the PGA Championship, Adam Scott had 22 birdies for the week. KJ Choi, 22 birdies. Tiger Woods, 21 birdies. So a lot of birdies for a lower scoring event. It's like over five a round. So kind of makes you think a little bit on the way the golf course sets up. Like, yeah, the bombers probably don't. I mean, the bombers always have an advantage, but looking at precision off the tee and then guys that can make a lot of birdies, looks like that's going to be kind of the lean this week. Because, I mean, 22 birdies in a week is... Yeah. I mean, did Bryson even have 22 birdies last week? I'm going to go pull that up real quick. Or not Bryson, Patrick Reed, jeez.
I didn't know where you were going with that. But.
Yeah, not good. Patrick Reed had 20 birdies last week. John Rahm had 22. Adam Scott had 22. So, yeah, 22 birdies at Medinah. That's a hefty number for a major. So. Yeah,
I think I don't know. I don't really know what to think, to be honest.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think through.
Don't know much about the course, so yeah.
Yeah, just trying to think through like scoring. Like, we don't have the strokes gained stuff. I think when you talk through stats, when you look at a golf course like this, strokes gained approach is going to be something you look at every single week. So it's not like I'm going to remove that this week, looking at off the tee a little bit more. I think approach is still going to be valuable, but I am looking at off the tee a little bit more this week. I am bumping up my weighted driving accuracy and weighted green regulation. The green size here is about 6,000 square feet on average. It's, looking at birdie makers, I guess. I mean, 22 birdies, that just stands out to me a lot. So I'm going to add birdie or better to my model actually right now and try to see if that, moves anybody. But the only person I don't want it to move is Jordan Spieth, which it's about to. But yeah, I think overall it's going to be a pretty straightforward week, looking at guys that are obviously coming in with good form. But yeah, the birdie number, man, I can't get past that. That's 22.
Yeah, I mean, birdie guys, there you go. Every week we have the answers. Off the tee, approach, birdies.
There you go. It's easy. Putts.
Yeah.
Putts.
People think this game's hard.
It's easy. All right, let's the greens are bent grass, so if you do want to look at putting splits, you can check that out. It'll be bent this week. So yeah, let's go ahead and dive in, man. Let's hit the players. I don't want to get stuck on 22 birdies for a freaking major. That's ridiculous. But it was the PGA, which I always think is a joke. So it's actually no surprise, I guess. So looking down the pricing, we actually get again, 70 people in the field. Or I guess 69 now that Kevin Nall's out, right?
Yep.
They didn't fill him?
No additions.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, Brooks Koepka at 11-8, Rory McIlroy 11-5, Jon Rahm 10-9, Dustin Johnson 10-7, Justin Rose 10-2, and Justin Thomas 10-even. Some of these guys got a little price decrease, some a little bit of price increase. But again, you only got 70 people total, so DraftKings algorithm is going to kind of work it so that you can build with some of these guys and feel comfortable. You'll see down at the very bottom, there's a few guys that are 6K minimum, and a lot of very cheap price tags that you don't normally see. You look at, Ches Reavie right there at 7K even, Sung J M 7,200, Harold Varner coming off of his week at 7,200. So don't get too caught up with the pricing. It's literally built so that you can build your lineups, with the 70 player field. But yeah, Brooks Koepka, a little bit of a drop, Rory McIlroy there. So I'll go ahead and lead off with you, man. So I don't want to keep talking in circles around the pricing being set up for 70 people. 10K and up, where are you kind of looking up here?
So I made a mistake last week, and I'm not going to make it this week. And I kind of ignored Dustin Johnson. And he had been in a funk. There was reason to ignore it. Mm-hmm. But I think I'm going to, at 10.7K, fourth highest price in the field. That's hard for me to ignore with his birdie rate and his birdie or better rate weighted as well. I think DJ at 10.7 and Rory at 11.5 are the two above, and I'm making multiple lineups this week, so I'm gonna have a pretty small player pool since there's only 70 guys. I'm gonna look for just looking to get some leverage on the field. So it'll be kind of a go big or go home type week for me. But up top, I think it's going to be Rory and DJ for me.
Yeah, I was just about to say Rory because I wasn't sure if you were going to mention him. Long term, looking at his year, it's been pretty phenomenal ball striking wise.
The best, in fact.
Say what?
The best, in fact, for all of 2019.
Yeah, like he took a dip last week, which was kind of surprising. And honestly, so did Brooks. If you look through some of their numbers, of all the guys over 10K, Dustin Johnson, Justin Rose, had the biggest differentials when I was looking at our extended approach numbers between a quarter of a stroke on approach gained and half a stroke on approach gained. They were 25% for DJ, which is huge, and then 21% for Justin Rose. It was, DJ 31% inside of 12 feet, gained 1.5 strokes on approach per round. For me, I know we talked about before we came on the show, like you try not to look at too much of the recent form and make decisions off of, but for a guy like DJ, when I see those numbers, that's a big sign that he's kind of turned a corner or he's trending the right direction. It's not like you find like a Brian Stewart that pops one week. It's not the same as a DJ. So I think I'm there with you with DJ. 10.7 is still a discount. I feel like after that performance last week, or if he even had a decent performance, within the last month, he would be at that price Brooks is at. So take a little bit of a discount off of him. Rory and Brooks, I think you would have to make a decision if you want to play one, like both of them or none of them, personally. I think Rahm's playing fine. I think he sets up well for this golf course. His approach numbers overall were good last week. His extended approach was not the best. But overall, he played pretty solid. So, that's kind of where I would lean. I would almost, at 11.5 and 11.8, I feel like you would need to make a decision. Are you going to just skip both of those guys, or you're going to have bits and pieces of both? Because still Brooks, for the year, his off the tee game has been great. And even last week was great. He was 24th last week in the field in total driving. Rory was 27th. And for a golf course that really makes the driving demanding, I feel like those are things to look for outside of just approach. But yeah, it's a tough decision on the 11.5, 11.8, but I'm with you there on DJ. I don't know if you have any final thoughts there.
Yeah, I need Sky to plug his ears for like 5 seconds as I tell you that it's Rory over Brooks, and I really don't have a debate for it, and I'd do it again this week. In fact, one of our members messaged me last week. He's like, hey, I have a head-to-head offered, and Rory versus Brooks, but they're giving me plus money on Rory. And I was like, I'd like to hit that if possible. And it panned out last week. I know it hasn't panned out every week, but yeah, for me, you're going to give me Rory and Brooks at the same price. In fact, Rory cheaper. I'm going to take Rory this year. So we'll see what happens, but that's where the numbers lie for me. So that's where I'm going.
I'm curious what his record was in 2012, but I don't have it up, and it would probably take me too long to pull it up. But I'm going to try because this is show business. And
yeah, I didn't even bother, to be honest with you.
I'm not gonna go down this thread. So 2012 Ryder Cup was the year that Rory met his wife, and that's all I'm gonna find. That's like the first 5 links because he was running late on that final day.
I mean, I don't. Yeah, he screwed up the time. He was in Central Time. He messed up with the Eastern Time and had a police escort to his last tee time. But
with the USGA intern or something like that.
Yeah. I honestly just remembered them winning on that Sunday, like Martin Keimer, and just them coming back is really all I truly remember about that Ryder Cup. But that was. I liked golf at that time, and it wasn't something I was seriously following. But
yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Rory met his wife at Medinah, Narrative Street. So let's move down to the 9K range. We get the
Is
winner.
that the current wife or the one he had the horrible breakup with?
He never married Wozniacki.
Oh yeah, Wozniacki. Yeah.
But that was a
get
terrible man. Dude, we should get into
TMZ stuff. Yeah,
we should get into some
TMZ
gossip.
Golf show.
We
got Brooks Bryson fighting. We'll do a side pod every week about
DJ Brooks has a little feud going. Like, dude, we could go down this rabbit hole.
TMZ and golf.
Love it. The FGB TMZ. What does TMZ even stand for?
Couldn't tell you.
All right, cool. Me either. So let's go down to the 9K range. We're literally losing it for the second to last event of the year, but it's all right. It's only 70 people. We can handle it. Patrick Cantlay, Patrick Reed. Obviously, Reed coming off his victory last week, and astonishingly didn't really do it with the putter. Overall, was averaging. Well. Yeah, I mean, he played really well. I think the third round was his worst of the week, but for the event total, 2.6 on approach. He gained 2 around the green, 5 off the tee, and 3 putting. Like, just overall, pretty solid. I'm not sure, so I guess I'm curious what your take is going to be on him, but going down to the bottom range of this, you got Adam Scott there, who obviously had a good finish in 2006. Webb Simpson there at 9,400, played well again last week with his irons. And then you got Fleetwood down there at 9K even, who kind of, shat the bed last week. But Adam Scott, man, is going to be, I guess there's no cut, so there's not a ton of risk. But
I never get Adam Scott correct.
Okay, well, how can you miss him this week?
I tweet about it every January, about how I'm going to quit playing him. I do. He does well. I play him. He sucks. So this week, he's highlighted, but I don't know if I'm going to use him.
Okay, so let me just fill you in on what's going on with his form coming in here.
He's playing outstanding.
Yeah, he's playing outstanding. He's in his last 10 events, in the last 10 tournaments of the season, he has over 21% of his shots inside of 12 feet. Over 35%, so over a third of his shots.
This guy tell me what putter he's using. That's what I need to know.
Well, that's also important. So 35% of his shots, he's got birdie looks inside of 18 feet. And then when you just go back to last week and try to gauge it off of that, again, it was a good course for him. But he was, 9% of his shots inside of 6 feet, 25%, nearly 25% of his shots inside of 12 feet. Like, the dude's hitting it good. I think if I still have it up, and I don't know if his total driving was great last week. And I know, let me clear that filter. So looking at Adam Scott, he was 22nd in distance, 66th in driving accuracy last week. So kind of pros and cons there, I guess. But looking at the irons, I can't not play Adam Scott this week.
Yep, he's highlighted. I don't know how much I'm going to use him. I think he could be popular at that price, but we'll have to wait and see on that. I mean, my real play here is Patrick Cantlay, 9,800. I think he continues to be underpriced for his talent and how consistently good he is. And although I hate watching him, so I don't like roster. Like, it's not someone I like really rooting for, but I can't not play it. And I honestly think he should be in the mid 10Ks. Like, he's been playing well. I mean, he may not have all the victories, but he just continues to play well. Like,
yeah,
you can look at whatever you want and rate it against the best players in the world. He plays in the best fields in the world. Continues to show up. 12th last week. So last week he was vastly underpriced as well. So I don't think he's vastly underpriced anymore.
Yeah.
I think 9,800 is probably fair to low for me, but I'm going to have a bunch more Patrick Cantlay this week.
Yeah, I think he's fine. I mean, he played tee to green last week, still played fine. I was just kind of going to throw out kind of thoughts. Really, this week and next week is probably irrelevant, but all year when we're talking through these players, we're looking at, different scopes of time. You're looking at the last 24 rounds, you're looking at seasonal numbers, etc. This week, and I'll just throw out kind of my opinion, I think you have a different take on this, but these guys probably all grade out pretty similarly for the seasonal stats. And even longer term, you look at last, 24, 36, 50 rounds, whatever you want to look at. I mean, they all got to this stage of the year, and they're all in similar boats. I think their stats will look pretty similar. I'm really trying to key in on these guys that are trending in the right direction. That's why I think DJ is really interesting this week. Adam Scott again this week off of last week's performance. So, I mean, it's looking at the longer term stuff, I think is valuable, no doubt. But I think so many of these guys got here in the same, manner in one way or another. And now trying to figure out, all right, who's really playing well this time of year? Obviously, Reed's playing good the last couple weeks. And now trying to figure out which of these other guys, which one of them is going to kind of pop off of these good results they've had.
Yeah, and realistically, they're all within quarters and halves and percent, like tenths of strokes per round within each other. So it's not, you're splitting hairs, especially in these upper salary ranges, no matter what. So, like you said, I there's plenty of ways to skin a cat. If you want to try catching them while they're hot, that's fine. If you want to try catching cold guys before they're popular again, there's a couple different ways to avoid and get leverage on people. So I think with our extended approach stats, you can kind of do that. Like you were saying, like find a guy who, people are only looking at his last 12 to 16 rounds. They might not see that the last 4 were just pure fire. So you might be able to chase that fire before the masses catch on. So, and then the other way, you could see somebody who's been playing pretty well get cold and be like, I'm going to fade. Maybe something changed. I don't know, but a couple different ways to do it. But I don't mind chasing the hot fire sticks this time of year.
No, I think it's valuable with this strength of field. I mean, they're all good. If this was a normal event and you had, 10 or 12 guys that were elite and then all the rest were just regular tour players, they would all stand out above each other. But in this situation, they're all in like the same boat. It's really splitting hairs. So I'm trying
unless I have a strong feeling, I'm just going to really try to play the ownership leverage field this week.
Good luck figuring that out.
To be honest, it's going to be tough with 70 guys, but there'll be a couple guys that I just take a stand on no matter what I think the ownership's going to be. But for the most part, I'm just going to, if I start even feeling someone's going to be, super chalky, I guess, then we'll try to avoid it and cross my fingers. So.
All right. Let's move down to the 8K range real quick in the 9K, because you mentioned Cantlay and kind of Adam Scott. You're not sure. Any thoughts there on Webb or Fleetwood? Fleetwood is really iffy for me. Like, I don't know what happened to his numbers last week, but Webb seems like it seems like another course for him.
I've got nothing on my boy Tommy this week, unfortunately. Webb, I did highlight as well. I kind of skipped over him when I jumped back up to Cantlay, but Webb just continues to play extremely well. Also, like Cantlay, I think he's underpriced all season because he's not super flashy. He doesn't win, unfortunately, but
they're kind of like the same player, except Cantlay's probably like 20 yards longer, but they're both terribly boring.
Yeah, but Webb just continues to get it done as well, and he keeps doing it in these deep fields too. So he is also highlighted, and like Cantlay, he will be a guy that I find a way to get into lineups, whether his ownership's projected to be high or not. Those are two guys I will be playing.
Sounds good. Yeah, the only thing I'll note real quick on Fleetwood is he gained 3 strokes off the tee last week and lost 3.5 on approach. So definitely two different sides of that coin with the driver and the iron. So we'll see kind of what shows up this week. Again, I think he's fine for GPPs. He'll be in my pool for sure, but it doesn't look very good off of last week. But we'll trying to take some leverage spots here. Let's move down to the AK where some more leverage spots can be had. Jordan Spieth at 8,900, hard pass. Ricky Fowler, Oosthuizen, Xander, Finau, Casey, DeChambeau, Horschel, Kuchar. Like, there's a ton of good names here in the AK range that we can kind of build around. The one that stands out to me, and again, it's a lot of last week, a little bit of the last 10 tournaments, but Oosthuizen, dude. Oosthuizen's game last week was ridiculous. Like 9 strokes he gained on approach last week. 9 strokes. I don't think that's sustainable, but I don't think you can shy away from it.
Somebody I don't really play. Like, he's just one of those guys who
he'll withdraw.
Again, not much of a statistical darling. He just plays good golf overall, and I don't know. Sometimes I'm a slave to the numbers a little too much, I guess. But he's just someone that never really pops for me, and probably not going to go back to Louis this week either.
It's probably a sharp move. He gained. He gained.
If I miss it, I miss it.
In round 1 and round 2, he gained over 7 strokes on approach in those 2 rounds combined. Round 3 and 4, he gained 1.2 total. So
I'd rather play Xander.
There you go. Cheap. Tell me about Xander.
I don't have a ton. Just overall solid golf. Like 72nd percentile in ball striking for the season. Does it off the tee. Wish the irons were a little better, but his short game is good enough to overcome the not having the best irons in the game. So I just think he's underpriced for his overall talent, and I think he shows up in these fields as well. So it's nothing particular popping except for mainly the price for where I have his overall talent rated. So. Yeah.
I think Casey gets a lot of popularity. We didn't see him last week, so we don't have those stats.
Yeah, I don't mind Casey this week either.
Yeah, if you go to the 10 tournaments tab on the extended approach, you can see, he's gaining over a stroke on approach per round. Nearly 40% of his shots, he's inside of 18 feet, over 50% inside of 24 feet. So, if you want someone consistent and most likely will fit this golf course unless he withdraws for the flu, Casey's probably the guy. I do
gives himself chances.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And he's still cheap. Like, he's not 8,800 or something where you kind of got to think twice. I think he's at a good price. Finau's really interesting to me. His iron shots last week don't pop off the page. He's the difference with him and some of the guys around him, like we talked about, Oosthuizen and Adam Scott Webb Simpson. He's not way far off, but he just didn't have a lot really close, like inside of 6 feet or 12 feet. But he did gain 2.5 strokes off the tee, and he lost 2 strokes putting. So his iron game wasn't bad, and his tee shots were good. I'm kind of making a bet there that his irons improve a little bit, and his putting doesn't lose 2 strokes for the week. So
that's fair.
Yeah, I do like Tony there. And then Kuchar, I think, again, going to give him a ride at 82.
Yep.
Yeah.
I highlighted Kuchar as well.
Played him last week and didn't really do much for me. Obviously missing the cut. He lost 4 strokes putting last week. So Kuchar, I do like coming back to this event. I think this is a great setup for him.
Yep. I think Matt is just underpriced again. He's somebody I highlighted just with the overall talent. Some of these guys are going to get pushed down. I think he's one of them. And then I highlighted it, different color than my must play, but I did highlight Spieth this week, which will be a first. That hurt to say. I will be very light on him. I will probably be under the field still, but in a no cut event, I have to chase the birdie making he's been doing. It's been nuts. He sucks. He sucks everywhere except for around the green. I'm gonna chase it though in a few lineups. Probably regret it, but gonna do it. And I also highlighted Tiger in the same color at 8K. I know the withdraw. I think though, if there's some chance that he can play or if he's better, that's an egregious price. So if you're making, this is for people who are going to be making, like 50, 70 plus lineups. Like if you can afford to take some chances in this type of field, like with only 70 golfers, I think Tiger is worth some. I can't say how much because it is a big risk with the withdrawal and his body, but 8K is an awful number if he's okay to play.
Dude, I have a tough time pulling the trigger on him.
Oh, I do too. I would not be doing it if I'm playing less than 50 lineups. Like I definitely would not recommend it. He's not safe at all. But if he can play, I think $8,000 is really cheap.
I would probably take a piece of him over 20 lineups. I mean, I think it's extremely risky, no doubt. But I do think like the leverage there's opportunity. If you're building a 3 max lineup, there's no point in playing him. I don't think. Risk of him withdrawing, like literally, he lost points on Thursday last week. Not technically, but to the field, and then he withdrew Friday, so you didn't even get any points for Friday. Like you're sitting there with like 11 points.
You're toast if he quits at all at any point. Obviously,
I would hope he would withdraw prior to the tournament, but it's a weird situation. And I think you're so far down in the season, like late in the season, that there's no risk for him to like really grind it out. This isn't a major. He doesn't need the money. So
no, I'm going to risk it, but it's just literally pure dice roll on him being healthy enough to get 4 rounds in. Because if he didn't withdraw, let's just say he finished, I don't even know, 60th last week. Didn't withdraw, he'd be priced into the 9s. So.
Did you touch on Ian Poulter?
No, I did not.
I have him on the list. He played really well last week. Irons looked really good.
Played a lot of Ian throughout the season. I have not of late, but
no,
I'm not against it. Not against it down here.
He was going the wrong direction for a little while.
Yeah, in the field differential, he's not bad for this price range. I like Morikawa more at $100 cheaper though. I avoided him last week, but I think I'm going to be back on this week.
Is this Morikawa's like 6th week in a row?
Yeah.
So let me. All right, okay.
Go ahead, back to Poulter. I'll get to Morikawa.
Yeah. Let me just touch on Poulter for just a second, and then you can get down there. Poulter finished in 10th last week and gained 7.2 strokes on approach. So like we just touched on, or at least I did. Oosthuizen gaining 9 strokes on approach, I think, but he gained 7.5 of them round 1 and round 2. Poulter, on the other hand, was gaining between 1.5 and 2.5 every single round throughout the tournament. So like very, very steady with the irons. He finished 10th last week. He actually finished 9th. I think it was 9th back in 2006. Again, 2006 is a long time ago, so don't at me because it's 2006.
He does have the Ryder Cup vibes here,
and he's got the Ryder Cup vibes. So
I think this is where he had his little showing out. I think he won a lot of points that week, if I remember.
Well, like the whole deal with Well, like bringing up the point of looking at really recent form going into these playoff events. Poulter's a perfect example of that. Like, yeah, you can look up Medinah and how he's played there during the Ryder Cup back in the PGA in 2006, obviously finishing 9th. And then you look at his form last week coming into this. It's surpassed his last 24 rounds. So you look at a little spike there and you think, okay, he's trending upwards for a good showing. And I think he had a good showing in the FedEx Cup playoffs last year, if I'm not mistaken.
He's 19th in my recent form model, so he's up there.
Yeah, I do like him. And then I'll go and kind of creep into the 7K range. I'll let you touch on Morikawa, but I will say Woodland is one of the 2 guys that for the year and last week were inside of the top 50 in total driving. So whatever that's worth. Total driving did look like it was pretty beneficial in 2006. But if you look at last week, Gary Woodland was 44th in the field. He was 78th in the field last week, in the season. But I think he is an interesting one coming back to this course right there at 79. So I'll let you touch on Morikawa.
It's just chasing some fire. I know he cooled down last week. Maybe catch him at a little lower this week. I don't know. I just think he's continued to play pretty solid, though. So he's really got to make a push this week to get into the Tour Championship. I don't know if he will do that, but at 7,900, he stuck out for me compared to others in this range. So I had highlighted in the upper sevens. I had highlighted, Morikawa and Abraham Answer. So those are the two I'll be targeting. I'll getting pretty sparse down here. This is where I'll really be taking a stand and hitting or missing for the week. But Morikawa and Answer will be part of those.
Am I a fish for looking at some course history here for 2006? Because I mean, like Ryan Moore's.
I will not
one.
be doing that.
Yeah, I know
that's just a personal thing, though. But
I mean, like these guys are like intersecting. Like you look at, I mean, just touched on Poulter, but now Ryan Moore.
I mean,
Ryan Moore's in the same boat.
Can't hurt to see that they've done well here. I'll put it that way. Like,
well,
I don't know how much it.
Yeah, I guess there's two sides of that. If like Ryan Moore's coming in with a miscut, and it's like, oh yeah, he finished 10th here in 2006, and yeah, you should play him. Yeah,
13 years ago. So I don't know.
No, I get that. I'm just saying. Ryan Moore finished 10th or 18th here, or finished 18th last week, gained 4 strokes on approach. Like irons look good. 22% of his shots inside of 12 feet. And then you go look at Medinah in 2006 and it's like, oh yeah, he finished top 10 here then too. It kind of like makes you think a little bit. Maybe this is a good golf course for him and he's playing well. So that's what I mean. I don't mean like, I'm not trying to pick off some guy that, shot 80 last week and he finished, he made the cut in 2006 though.
Yeah, the irons are there. I mean, like you said, just about 20% of his shots have been within 12 feet over the last 10 weeks. So pretty solid.
All right. Anyone in the low sevens? I'll kind of rattle off a couple names that I'm at least eyeballing this week. I don't think I can go back to Varner. I think his popularity will be pretty high. But I do like Kokrak there. That was up at that high range. Moving down, Ben An and Rory Sabbatini. Again, guys with good ball striking coming into the event. Ben An dropped a little bit last week in his prox numbers, but he still gained strokes on approach. So kind of leaning more on longer term stats there for him. And then that very low end range, Lucas Glover, he actually, again, not trying to look at course history so much, but he did lead, I think, after round 1 or round 2 back in 2006. Very good plotter of the golf ball, decent amount of fairways, a lot of greens. So at 7,100, if you need some savings, and who doesn't? Who doesn't need savings? Lucas Glover, I like at 7,100.
Yeah, so down here, it is just purely chasing birdies. So I went through and filtered the 12-foot range over the last 10 weeks. So in the expanded approach numbers we have up there, and it's at least 200 plus approaches for every golfer. So it's not like I took 57 shots or whatever it is and said, oh yeah, this guy's crushing it. No, pretty solid amount. And so Andrew Putnam popped up. Like you said, Varner was kind of up there, but after last week, that could be some chalk down here you want to avoid. But I really like Andrew Putnam. Not only is he giving himself a lot of chances, Putnam is a pretty solid putter for the year. So it's nice to see that he has the potential to capitalize on those approaches that he's putting in. 7.3% of his last 350 shots have been within 6 feet. So, and he can capitalize on that. So that's cool. Griot 6,700 popped up. And then at the very bottom, I mean, if you want to try to cram guys in at the top, you can go Max Homa and Adam Long. Again, a couple guys who you're chasing birdies with these guys. Like they've just been putting a bunch of shots within 12 feet, giving themselves a chance. They also hit some pretty bad, but they can't get cut this week. So that's the key to why I like more guys down here than on a normal week.
Yeah, that's a good point. Kind of like the Adam Long from the WGC a few weeks ago.
Yeah, very similar. Like he'll probably miss a shitload of those that he puts within 12 feet. Like the putting's not there, especially for Adam Long. I mean, Homa's not a great putter. Ryan Palmer's not a great putter. Not many guys down here are, which is why Putnam really stuck out at 7,300. But they all have been giving themselves so many chances. And over 4 rounds, you're just hoping they can take advantage and rack up DraftKings points. So, yeah, that's where I'm sitting this week. Those are the guys down there that will be plugged in and making me hate myself throughout the weekend.
Yeah, I'll say one interesting one that I think Chris Ferreter mentioned to us earlier today. We were talking about golf courses of this type of length that we've seen this year. One was Quail Hollow, which is the Wells Fargo, and the other was Torrey Pines, which was the Farmers Insurance. And at 6,000, Joel Damon finished 9th at the Farmers and 2nd at the Wells Fargo. Slightly different types of golf courses, obviously different than Medinah, but from a length aspect, you try to look at the profile of the golf course. It was interesting that he played well in these longer tracks, and he's at $6K minimum, the minimum price, and there's no cut. So it's an interesting one there. I mean, I'm sure I'm going to go back to some Adam Long. I'll probably have some Max Homa after last week. He looked really good. But yeah, there's at the high end, I'll just touch on that, and then we'll wrap up the show. But Emiliano Griot looked awesome last week with his ball striking. Furyk continued his good ball striking. And if I'm not mistaken, did he play well here? No, yeah, 29th back in 2006. So at least he has something positive. And then for Telly and Corey Connors, again, ball striking guys, 6,600 for both. I think you can get behind both of those guys. So I think that'll pretty much do it in this 6K range. I mean, a lot of them are in play. You're trying to be a little bit smart about avoiding the chalk in some areas. So like some of those guys I just mentioned, that high range could get, over 15, 16%. And that might be, enough reason to fade them in this type of format. Again, no cut, 69 guys. So keep that in mind when you're building your lineups and your player pool this week.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. Couldn't agree more.
Sweet. All right, man. Well, I appreciate it, as always, for joining me this week, and we'll be back next week, hopefully a little bit special of a podcast for the Tour Championship. And I think that'll pretty much do it, man. Good luck, everybody, in your contest. Good luck with your lineup construction. Always, you can find these stats that we mentioned at fantasygolfbag.com. And if you're into the Euro content, that'll be posted this week, getting back into that swing as they do the race for Dubai. So looking forward to that as well. So we'll be back Wednesday night. You can find our live stream at twitch.tv/Redkacheek. We'll be there at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can find us and come hang out with all the other baggers talking the final thoughts before the first round. So thanks again, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you Wednesday night for the FGB live stream. See ya.